podcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello and welcome to this joint venture webinar between ourselves, 2Inclarity and Dropbox. We will be handing over shortly to our guests, Nick Templeton from the 2Inclarity sales team and our good friend Tom over at Dropbox. Throughout the course of the webinar, feel free to drop any questions into the question tab within the GoToWebinar control panel. And we will get to those at the end of the session. I'm now just going to pass over to my colleague Nick, who will do a little bit of introduction for himself before handing over to Tom.
Great. Thank you very much indeed, Chris. Well, welcome everybody, and thank you very much indeed for joining us. Some of you may well know myself, Nick Templeton. Others never heard of me. So I'm one of the business development managers within 2Inclarity, been here for 9 years, and obviously seen lots and lots of things happen in growth. I think first and foremost, just a quick positioning with regards to Dropbox and the timing of it more pointedly. So we actually engaged with Dropbox quite a while ago. We've not engaged with Dropbox during these horrendous times that we're all going through, businesses and then users alike. So I'd just like to position that for you. Why did we engage Dropbox? Ostensibly because of the solution per se. To quote a very well-known phrase, it does what it says on the tin, much like 2Inclarity, uptime, security, etc., etc. It's an extremely dynamic and robust solution. And you'll see some context and some content in that as Tom from Dropbox gives you some content very shortly. What I would like to do is just express that we do have an incentive that we're open to yourselves, all our partners, quite a juicy little incentive. And what I will do is I will give you some details on that after Tom's session, and then we'll move into a Q&A aspect of things. So I guess without further ado, I'll hand over to Tom, and he will put some context into the solution for you moving forward. Thank you. Over to you, Tom.
Thanks very much, Nick. Just going to share my screen with you guys. Here we go. So first off, thank you all for joining, and thanks for 2Inclarity for organising this webinar and letting us present. I'm going to take you through some of what Dropbox business is about, what we're doing in the market today, and hopefully it will present some opportunity for you guys to get on board, and the messaging, as Nick's kind of highlighted there, is resonating really strongly with people at the moment. So to start off, I'm going to give you a little bit of a story. Dropbox has been around since 2007, and really Dropbox was just a cloud storage solution, right? And people know us. Really strong brand recognition for storing files and giving you that access anything, anywhere technology in the cloud. And since 2007, we've just been laser focused on enabling your content to be stored in the cloud, making it sync reliably and the fastest possible way with a number of different technologies. And because of that, in the consumer world, Dropbox just grew rapidly into millions of users, and people started using us in the workplace. So this is when Dropbox Business was born, and we were able to make use of all of those simple cloud solution, which was starting to add value in the workplace. And this has now developed into what we call the 3 Cs internally. So we've nailed content, we've got the fastest reliable sync available. And then we're looking at how do we communicate around that content. So it's great that you can access, you can edit files, you can view them, you can set different permissions, but how do we work with our colleagues or external people around communicating on them? And then the third C is coordination. So how do we use those files? How do we create that content so that we don't step on each other's toes and make conflicted copies and multiple different versions? We all know about kind of version history hell here, where we might have V8, 9, 10 of the same document. And when you ask customers why they use Dropbox, why have we built millions of users across the world, the answer is because it just works. So all of that innovation and focus has been user-centric. It's been focused on that end user experience to allow us just to get the work done, just to have the right file at the right time with the right people, and make it happen reliably. And then a later addition into the Dropbox business advantages is our open and deep partnerships. So we know you need to communicate as part of your jobs. We know you need to coordinate between different departments, externally or internally. And we also know that Dropbox has got the content piece down to a T. We know we've got the technology in place that means that Dropbox syncs files faster and makes them easily accessible. But we know we're not going to be some of the best project management tools or some of the more in-depth communication tools that you might use, like Microsoft Teams or Slack or whatever chat functions you use. And we also aren't going to offer the best video conferencing. We're not offering the full stack of software here. So we have open and deep partnerships with all of these platforms, which means you can go and use Zoom or GoToMeeting here or Microsoft Teams, and you can integrate Dropbox into all of those best of breed solutions that are right for you. And what does that mean for you and your customers? It means that we're not dispersing all of the content and all of this chat that you may be having into different areas. You can have one consistent content layer under all of these applications that you choose to use, and you know that that content is going to be there for you. So these are the areas in which Dropbox really excels at. Once you know where your content is and you've got control of it, and it's all encrypted to banking level encryption, then you've got that peace of mind. And this enables us to do a number of different use cases. So jumping into who really buys Dropbox, who would you consider having a conversation about Dropbox business with? And traditionally, these 4 areas are where Dropbox has seen a huge amount of success. So one of them, which is particularly resonant now, is companies with a remote and diversified workforce. One of the big features of Dropbox is it's completely agnostic in terms of what operating system you're using, what device you choose to use. And this means you can have people out in the field, and not necessarily just working from home, but if people, delivery drivers and things like that, need to access documents and need to make sure things are updated, then Dropbox allows that to happen. And often when you've got remote and diversified workforce, you can't guarantee bandwidth or broadband requirements. So having these technologies, we'll look at one of them later as an example, allows a company to give the most accessible way for those people that are remote working to access the files. The second one is companies with large file sharing and transfer requirements. And of course there is value to all organizations that have that are dealing with larger files. So that might be video files, rich media, maybe construction. They have lots of drawing files and general project files that if you were to be downloading and uploading all the time, not only does this take time, but it's a huge draw on bandwidth as well. So we'll look at a couple of ways in which Dropbox solves this challenge for businesses today. We'll look at Dropbox transfer and we'll look at file requests, and we can also pick up on some of the different types of sharing with links and Dropbox previews when we look at specific use cases later. And then in terms of verticals that Dropbox focuses on, we have 3 or 4 key areas here, which is media, production, retail, and construction. And you could probably start to piece together some of the reasons that these industries are focuses for Dropbox. They're just a great natural fit where media are dealing with many large video files or imagery files. Production, retail, construction. This falls onto the coordination aspects of Dropbox. And Dropbox enables anybody to view files no matter what type of file they are. So we're going to look at construction example there where we've got a AutoCAD file and what Dropbox does to solve that problem around access, whether it's an internal or external person. And the final one, which is much of Dropbox's bread and butter here really, is companies seeking file server replacements. And one of the biggest challenges here is adoption, right? If a company is looking to replace a file server and they want to move towards the cloud to increase flexibility, to reduce a big cost that might be ahead in replacing the server, then they don't want to give too much of a disruption to their employee base. They don't want to have to do focus on how they're going to get their employee base to adopt these technologies. So Dropbox offers a very, very seamless way in terms of user experience on how they can start adopting the cloud while still acting very much in the same ways and doing the same things that they used to be doing. So the adoption around Dropbox is extremely high, and that's obviously adding value. And what we also find is it reduces the cost involved around support tickets and just training and things like this. So those are the kind of 4 key areas that we looked at, and we have been looking at since Dropbox Business was released. But we are now developing Dropbox into a forward-looking and innovative product that's solving new challenges that we're seeing in today's workplace. And I wanted to touch on this, but do remember that the core foundation of Dropbox is still maintained when we develop the product in this. So increasingly there becomes what Dropbox has termed the tech grind. And in a nutshell, what that really means is as a worker today, you might be working with multiple different groups of people. So in this case, let's take Maria in the center of this beautifully drawn diagram here. She's a parole officer and she's working with her own staff. She's got clients to work with, she's got the court to work with, and then she's got police departments to engage with as well. There's multiple different people to work with, and all of those people use different applications, and all of those applications create different content. And then Maria's got to figure out how to navigate this new landscape with increasing amounts of content, increasing amounts of internal, external people to work with, and also increasing applications, which becomes a bit confusing just to navigate. And what that looks like for us in a real world example is loads of applications, loads of notifications, and just kind of constant distractions, which are really taking up a lot of valuable time in our day, and generally just losing focus on what it is that we're trying to get, well, what we need to do to get our work done. So we're going to look at as well at what Dropbox is responding to the text grind, which we're seeing as an increasing problem in the workplace. But before we go deep into that, I wanted to touch on just some feature sets that Dropbox Business offers that enable us to cater to some of those use cases that we talked around on file server replacements and diversified workforce and on large files. So taking a little bit of a step back, one of the sync features that we have is called Smart Sync. So Smart Sync is a Dropbox feature that helps you save space on your hard drive. It enables you to use the folder structure and the file structure that everybody is used to. You can see all of those files in place, but Smart Sync overlays an icon which indicates whether that file is either stored both on your device and in the cloud, or just stored in the cloud and you're only seeing it on your device as a kind of a placeholder as such. It's a user-defined feature. So if I know I have a folder that I access every day, I can make that folder offline and online synchronization, and it will be shown here with a full green tick. If there's a file which, okay, that's great, I need to have access to it, but I don't want it taking up space on my hard drive because actually the folder is 500 gig of data in there, then I can make that a online only folder, and then it would have a little cloud symbol next to it. So this feature is a user-defined one, but we've also built into it machine intelligence now. So you can enable Dropbox to intelligently look at your folder structure and suggest, or it's not suggested, it's automatically put in place so that a folder that you might not have accessed in the last 6 months becomes online only, free up some space, and then a folder that you actually accessed 3 times in the last 2 days will become local. And you can have folders where you've got a mixed state of these types of synchronization as well. And this is important because you no longer need to worry about what the device, the person that you're coordinating or working with has. They can still access very large files and still adopt Dropbox in the same way that they were previously using a file server, for example. And they can manage that themselves. So whether they're on a tablet or whether you want to save money and deploy laptops with a smaller hard drive because you now are able to use Smart Sync, then there's a number of different features here. And this is a user-centric sync feature, but we also have a number of different sync technologies in place which allow us to benchmark really highly against competitors. So one of those features is Delta Sync, and Delta Sync is a feature that if we're working on a really large PowerPoint presentation, let's say the PowerPoint presentation is 20 slides long and we only change the last 5 slides of that PowerPoint presentation, instead of using the bandwidth to resync the whole file up to the cloud, and then I might need to pull it down, or the other co-author might need to pull it back down from the cloud again in full, Dropbox cuts that file up into 4 megabyte chunks, and it will only resync the 4 megabyte chunks of that data that have had edits to it. So we could be only syncing 8 megabytes of a 2 gigabyte file rather than syncing 2 gigabyte every time. And things like that save time and also bandwidth. So focusing more on what Dropbox looks like for file server replacements, team folders is in simplest term, is a way that you can replicate your network drive and manage access and in groups of employees. So you could have a team folder for your sales department, marketing department, finance department, and add those relevant groups of employees to each one. Those groups of employees would then inherit access to everything they need. So you can imagine if you've got a new starter in the marketing team, you add them to the marketing group, they automatically inherit access to the whole marketing team's kit of working files and documents that they need. And what's important about this hierarchy structure here is that only a team admin can create team folders. So they are defining the structure for the business, and then users can create shared folders. So you can see many of these files under the team folder are shared folders. And then users also have the ability to do additional sharing in the team folders. So you can do additional sharing, sorry. Let's just take product videos as one example, where we've added a creative consultant who's an external party, and they've been added to product videos. So when they go to their Dropbox, all they'll see is product videos. They won't see that it's even part of a structure under videos and marketing team. So we know that they've only got access to what they need. In addition to that, if you are in the marketing group of employees and it's decided that they're allowed to see print ads, but you don't want them to see what's in the campaigns folder, then you can also do restrictive sharing now as well. So you can remove people from certain folders. So you've got both waterfall sharing there and restrictive on the way back up as well. I teased earlier around some of the file sharing requirements that people have. Dropbox has a very unique feature to Dropbox, which is called file requests. And this allows you to collect and receive files, big or small, from anywhere, anyone, right into Dropbox. So this could be you could determine the destination for this requested file as a shared folder. And what that means is when you send a link to someone that you need to collect the data for, they will be able to submit that document. It will go straight into the shared folder, and because it's a shared folder, it's automatically shared with those people in the shared folder. So just to give you context around what that might have looked like before, if we were fortunate enough that the file we're requesting is small enough to be sent in an email, someone might send an email, and then the person will receive the email. They'll have a copy of it that they then need to distribute to multiple people. As soon as they've distributed it to multiple people, there's then multiple copies and multiple versions. If the file isn't small enough to go in an email, we might have to do something like we did have one client who was posting memory sticks around before they found the value in file requests. So this really saves a lot of time, hassle, and coordination in many customers. And there is a very large government organization who were also sending people on site with memory sticks to download information and bring it back to the office. So this saved them hundreds of thousands of pounds doing that one small task, which is a great win. And you might find customers are willing to pay for Dropbox just for one of these features. We obviously love the adoption to grow from there, but sometimes it's finding that pain point and that workflow that all of a sudden can be cut down from 3 days to just 10 minutes. And then recently, this is actually directly from customer asks. So Dropbox, you can share files, you can work on them together. It's co-authoring and it's really great. You can also do link sharing, so you can do like sending files via a link, and then they get previews of those files, and they could download it from that. But customers still wanted something that was a bit more of a one-time push portal, and a bit more like WeTransfer, which some of you may have used. So we developed Dropbox Transfer, which is a brandable way of transferring files. You can set expiration dates, you can set a password, and this means that when they click the link, they'll have a quite a nice branded Dropbox screen where they can then just download those files. So this is where you don't want to collaborate on documents. You just need to send them as a one-time push, and you can do that for a selection of files or just one, but it's also included in Dropbox. And the key thing here as well is that you can do it up to file sizes of 100 gigabytes, so it's a pretty chunky feature. So the next piece here, we looked at solving tech grind. So all of these applications, all of these notifications, how is Dropbox looking to do this? Because it's all these applications creating more content. Dropbox has deep integrations with 300,000 applications, so it's in a really unique position to solve this pain. And so we developed what we call the Dropbox Smart Workspace, which is a new user interface. So we're stepping outside of Windows Explorer client on the MacBook Finder client, and we've built a whole new user interface which adds far more context and a far richer experience into the way that we interact between applications, how we manage the content in those applications, how we comment on them. And so I'll just give you a couple of examples in this case here, but we've got context around the folder. So where it says package design, this is the folder name. We've got a short description, and then we've got interactive checklist where we can provide direction. Previously, if I'd shared a folder with someone, all I would have received is a folder with a kind of dumb trunk of files, as one of my colleagues has put it, where you don't know why someone shared it with you, you don't know what you have to do, you've got no guidance or context around that file. So here you've got that context, you've got comments, so if they've been making comments in Office 365 or G Suite, then they'll also show up here, and that gives you that one screen. But we can look at this again in the follow-up if this is something that's interesting for you and your customer. But the idea here is that you're bringing the content, the tools, and everyone together in one place. So I'm conscious of time, so I won't spend too long on this, but it's good to see some of these things that we've spoken about. And this is the example where we've put a really large video file into Dropbox and we've sent it via a link. So the reason we've sent it via a link is because it's a very chunky file. And the Dropbox preview engine will allow you to stream that file, which is great because you no longer need to wait for it to download to view it. But what it also does is allow you to make a comment on that file, which is time coded. So at 30 seconds, I can write a comment, and the person that I tagged will get a notification to say, Tom, Andy Wilson has commented at 30 seconds in this video. I can really quickly click on that and go and review what it is that he's suggested to me. The other cool feature about this preview is, if any of you do work in the media industry, is that we've developed the video preview engine to run on all types of video production formats. So no matter what it is, you don't need to worry about whether they have a platform to be able to play that file, because the Dropbox preview engine will play it for them and allow them to view and comment on it. The second one here is looking at the construction industry or any kind of architecture, design, houses. So we've got a .dwg file here, which is an AutoCAD file. So in this case, we're going to share it with someone externally, and we don't know whether they have AutoCAD software or something to view drawing files with. So we've shared it with them via a link. They've then, we kind of determined the link settings here, which we've said anyone can view it, no expiry, and we've disabled downloads. So when they click that link, they'll then be taken to the Dropbox preview. They can see that drawing file, and not only can they see it, which they couldn't have done before, they can also annotate and comment on it to provide that instant feedback and again complete that work cycle that previously someone might have been going on site with a printed maps to go and draw on and comment on. Here we've been able to solve that within minutes rather than days. And I just want to close with this, just to highlight security and trust is the foundation of everything Dropbox does here. So there is a fully fledged admin console to manage the Dropbox business team, where you've got audit logs, you've got activity reports. This is where you set up your team folder, manage your groups, and there's a number of different areas here where we would recommend two-step verification, integrating into Active Directory, Azure Active Directory single sign-on, and then you can set a number of different measures to make sure you've got control and you're managing the permissions of your colleagues and teams. And this is really important because often we're seeing many people take Dropbox from that consumer place where they just loved using Dropbox. The adoption was really high, so they started using it in the workplace. But the issue is, and the challenge many IT network managers are having, is those are personal Dropbox accounts, and so they don't have management of that content and data and permission management in it. So we want to consolidate that usage under a Dropbox business team, where we do have control, visibility, and where the business owns all of that data. And we have loads of controls in here, which again would be a follow-up activity for us to take a deeper dive into the kind of security and admin controls that we offer. And with that, I hope I've given you a whistle-stop tour of some of the features, some of the use cases, and some ideas around how Dropbox can help some of your customers. So if Nick and Chris are still with me, I'm happy to open up to questions, and I think we'll utilize the question box here within the GoToWebinar system.
Yeah,
Tom, thank you very much indeed for that. That's super. Chris, I'll just quickly chip in because I think what it's especially highlighted for partners that have taken it from us up to now is this is an incredibly clever and dynamic tool, as you can see. We've had one or two. A classic example is obviously people just, and we've all been guilty of this, and see customers using email to store documents that you need to retrieve. And what happens if your email goes down? Pieces of extremely important information basically being stored on individuals' laptops. I think Tom touched on a very, very good point earlier on there, effectively about laptops don't need to have massive amounts of RAM or memory in them. You can, and what does that mean? Well, that means buy cheaper laptops and effectively then just use this tool to store and cleverly coordinate things. I did at the outset of my quick opening gambit just mention about an incentive as well for all our partners. And what I can confirm to you is that the incentive amounts to, for each partner, it amounts to £500 in vouchers that you can be used for obviously tax reasons. We do have a particular target for those for licenses being taken by partners, and that threshold is 50 licenses. If 50 licenses, £500 of vouchers will be yours. And that's open to the first 4 partners that achieve that that target. And obviously, please, if you've got any questions further to that, communicate them back to myself, Nick, or indeed Chris. On that note, I'll just hand over to Chris, and I guess we can then just see if we've got any content on the Q&A session. Chris, over to you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Tom, and thank you, Nick. So at the moment, there haven't been any questions coming in as of yet, so I'm sure I'll be bombarded with emails afterwards. Actually, as I say that, one has just come in. What is the commercial setup on this? Are we reselling Dropbox to customers? Yes, so you may have seen the price list that was distributed at the middle to end of March. That did have the Dropbox pricing on there. I haven't got it to hand, but for anyone who did want a bit more information as to ordering the licenses and how much the licenses are, then please feel free to just drop me an email at presales@inclarity.co.uk.
Yeah, if I could just add something in there, just reminded me as well. So you may have customers that are already Dropbox business customers, but direct with Dropbox. So they'll be paying full whack for that Dropbox business team. We're absolutely in support of our Dropbox partners. So if you're coming on board as a Dropbox partner, then we'll happily support you in moving that customer under your management, and then obviously you're taking reoccurring margin and revenue from that customer, which was previously just probably coming direct. So we're open to supporting those conversations, and so do let us know if you have anything like that.
Okay, so we've had another question come in. Tom, this one might be for you. So who are Dropbox competing against? And Dropbox seems to be expensive compared to SharePoint. How can we justify that to customers?
Cool. Yeah, so we are, to take the first question, I think in terms of, and I'll be completely open and transparent on it, in terms of competition, we're probably most directly related to Box. And if you look at the strategies of how we pair up to each other, you'll see Dropbox is completely, I've kind of drummed on about it during this webinar, but completely user-centric. So we're focusing on that end user experience to increase adoption and really add value in being efficient and having the best-in-class sync, so that we get this feedback from customers that says it just works. Whereas Box is far more focused on having extremely granular and sometimes complicated permission management and user controls. So for Dropbox providing you, and this is probably making it too simplistic, but for Dropbox provided you with 4 or 5 different sharing options, Box might have 7 or 8, and that's the most simplistic comparison I can make. And that does kind of answer the next question as well, around how Dropbox adds value versus a SharePoint and OneDrive setup. And that is that feedback that Dropbox just works. So all of this development we've done around our sync engine, around creating a platform where everyone can work as they used to, but now they're getting the benefits of the cloud, where people can work externally as easily and still as securely as they can internally, where everyone's experience, no matter what the file type is the same, and you're not coming up to all of these adoption hurdles and just getting your job done. These are the features that are winning customers over the SharePoint OneDrive, which are often seen as free because they're buying Office 365 anyway, but in actual fact are adding a lot of confusion and convoluted decisions around, am I working in OneDrive or SharePoint, and how do I sync, and when I've left the office, has it actually synced, or where am I? So for sure the biggest and the focus on the value is in having customers know that their important data is synced and is available to them when they need it and where they need it.
Wonderful. We've just had another question come in. How will the service be ordered and supported? So this one, I can pretty much take this question. So in the first instance, when it comes to setting yourselves up, well, not necessarily yourselves up, but your customers, etc. Please get in contact with, in first instance, your account manager, and this will then be me being looped in as well. And we will get yourself set up as part of the Dropbox service, and then all license ordering and things in the first instance will come through us at 2Inclarity, and we will require certain information from yourselves and from your end customer, at which point we will then just order the licenses as necessary. And then your customers will receive the end user license agreement, and then it's a matter of just simply setting up, and away they go. In terms of the support aspect, I've been using Dropbox now for a number of months, to be honest, and it's pretty much straightforward. It works straight out of the box. You know that again, going back to what one of the guys said earlier, it just works. If there is any need for support and any guidance, obviously us at 2Inclarity can help pick that up. But from my understanding, Tom, please correct me if I'm wrong, you know, Dropbox aren't going to turn any end users away if they come across any issues. You know, let's say, for example, any major file deletions or anything like that, or something's been corrupted somewhere, you know, I'm sure Dropbox won't necessarily turn you away from that.
Yeah, so we can go into the security side for for a number of in quite a lot of detail, but in terms of support, there's a help section here at the bottom of the admin console. So every user will have access to that, which is chat, phone, and email support. So they can go in and file any issues they're having. As a partner, you also have a support function through the Dropbox partner portal. So you can go in and raise support tickets on behalf of your customers in the Dropbox partner portal. So those tiers of support are all available. But yeah, I mean, those cases where that you've just raised there, Chris, the Dropbox has 3 instances of every piece of data you put in into Dropbox. So there's 2 backups, which is an N+2 setup. We also have 180 days version history. So one of the use cases, which we haven't really explored too much today, is in prevention of ransomware attacks. That means that if something did happen, you would be able to revert back to the day before and restore all of the files from that point in time. So you have 180-day version history as standard, and then we also have a feature where you can turn off permanent deletion. So on our Dropbox Business Advanced plan, you have as much data as you need. So you'll never hit a quota or any surplus charges on data usage. So that means that you can turn permanent deletion off, and then you never have any worries about losing data.
Excellent. And I think we've had, again, questions are coming in quite nicely today. Is there a minimum number of licenses that need to be ordered? So for new customer setups, there isn't a minimum order of 10 licenses. If once the customer has got those licenses and in the future they need an additional 1 or 2, they can be ordered in singles. But in the first instance of new customer setups, it will be a minimum of 10 licenses. Okay. Let me just see if there's any more emails, questions coming in. We've got that one. Answered those ones. Okay. I think that's it for questions for now. If anyone does come across any queries they have, or any instances of questions they couldn't quite think of while on the webinar, please feel free to email me at presales@inclarity.co.uk. We are also happy to help support any opportunities for Dropbox you might have, and we can lean on Tom quite heavily on that as well, if needs be. And obviously we'll start working at getting specific data sheets and battle cards and things like that out for you guys, so you have all of that information at hand. Now, if there's nothing else from Tom or Nick, one more, I've just got a comment, which is a nice comment. Not a question. I have been using Dropbox for 5 years, and it is great. That's always a nice way to end a webinar. So yeah, I think now we'll come to the end of the webinar and we'll close down. So again, thank you to Nick and Tom for joining us and presenting. And on behalf of the three of us here, thank you for all of our attendees for joining and taking time out of your days to join us today. So thank you, keep safe, and again, please email us if you do have any questions. Thank you very much.